Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. This is Gemini Brett of Arts of the Chart to talk Leo New Moon. So get your saxophones out, get those paintbrushes ready, because a new lunation begins that wants to remind us that life is art. And these songs and these poems and these sculptures that we create are here to remind us of the true masterpiece. We are the artists of the canvas called our lived experience. Can you create your reality? Yes. You cannot not create your reality, Leo suggests. So what we're going to do today is play a bit with some astrological charts and get into some of these Leo feels of how we can align ourselves to take most advantage. Is that the right term? Perhaps to best utilize the very strong energetic gifts that the celestial symphony presents for us at this time for the lunation ahead. I'll share with you that Anna, my beloved, and I have recently begun a moon group, a moon circle in the Bay Area. So at my website, which is GeminiBrett.com, you can find Berkeley moon gatherings. And they'll be on Fridays just before new moon times every month at Berkeley Yoga Center. So if you live in the Bay Area or close by, come along and hang out with us. We're doing guided meditations to honor the fire and astrological transmissions to honor the air, and sharing and support circle to honor the water of the heart, and gentle embodiment practices to honor the earth, and much, much more. And my general intent was to record these things so then I could share them here, share them on YouTube, and so we could bring that to a wider audience and connect as we do in this wonderful dawning new age through the info waves blasted by satellites through space and whatnot. But very importantly, and I say this in the last days of a Cancer lunation, and we think family, home, and moving into a Leo lunation, and we think heart, among many other things. It's important for us to connect heart to heart and be in body and call in the crew and local space and get together and celebrate these heavenly happenings like a new moon, a portal of amazing seed planting, you know. We study astrology, and we can really get lost in aloneness because truthfully it's a little different than that which calls most individuals of the collective, is it not, right? And so a wonderful thing on the a weirdening path that seems to be part of everyone's journey, though they are each so unique and individual, is a bit of the isolationism, right? You start changing, and well, it seems like you've awakened to this thing that helps report the truth that everybody else is asleep. You got to remember that you're the weird one. And the culture is certainly happy to remind you of this again and again and again until you move through that initiation and find yourself on the other side, which is the beautiful truth of having reconnected with family, but this time soul family, you know, and people who really get you because they do the thing like you do, or in their own way, but perhaps tuned to the same key and such. And I think that's a really important part of the path, but it's also very important for us to come back, right? And come back into community. And what we find again and again is that it's not going to come to you, that you have to come to it. So, I have clients who've talked to me about how, well, they're just stranded in this place where there's no people who are into things, spiritual things like astrology. It's, oh, where are you? Paris. What? Right? But that's what's to me most interesting about this. Right? Like, oh, I live in Los Angeles, and of course there's no like spirituality happening. It's like, what are you talking about? It's everywhere. Right? But the truth is, and let's face it, there are some places in Bible beating lands that you can get chastised or cast aside for even looking at things like tarot or astrology or whatever. And it's not as bad as it once was, where we were very much literally burned at the stake for having this cosmic quest. But it can certainly feel that way. And I think sometimes it is, relocate. Why only be able to tap into your passion and your interest from, a doors closed dark room so nobody will know what you actually dig, right? But some of it is like, oh, actually, there's a lot of people in those closed rooms hiding out in their own homes down the street, around the corner, in the town next door. And it's time for us to come out of hiding and shine our light and be the bright, radiant lion and lioness beings that we are. And if you, like I, have found truth and play and passion in the astrological way, why hide it away? Because announcing your love to the world will bring more love to you. Or so they say. So Anna and I began Moon Circle last Friday, Venus's day, and she led a wonderful guided meditation that I had hoped to have recorded for you about finding the inner mounted flame, I'll call it, by bringing the above down and the below up. We did some work before then to call in the 7 directions with postures that have informed me in that quest. And this beautiful vision quest that Anna led us on brought in an image for us all. And then I spoke astrology some, and then I led with the drum another vision quest about bringing the inner heat to warm the Holy Grail, so the steam will rise, and in that steam we will find a vision that becomes a canvas for us to paint what we wish to be on it, right? And then the recorder got turned off. Well, it was planned to be turned off at that point so we could get into our sharing circle with some safety and anonymity. Well, can't say the word, but I think maybe you know what I'm getting after. Some confidence. But I found out that the recorder had stopped just well before then. So anyway, I thought today I could get on here and at least share some of my feels astrologically about this Leo new moon and the lunation ahead of us. Probably I'll only go to the full moon time. And maybe end by sharing some of the challenge questions and opening questions that Anna and I brought to the group that inspired a really wonderful sharing circle with Anna and myself. There were 7 of us total, just a nice kind of smaller group to begin with. And we had basically everyone there was a professional astrologer or close to one. And that was a pretty cool thing because I could really talk the language. That being said, I want to share a few things before I turn the chart on, right? So if you don't speak astrology and it just sounds like gibberish and takes us away from the thing, you can leave after this first kind of opening with a seed to inspire the way that you choose to plant intentions in rich soil. And then I will get into charts and we'll speak about aspects and different planets and things. And I know that can sound foreign, but even if you're new to this study, I encourage you to hang on to that and just not try to grasp at the smoke. Allow these words like, oh, the Saturn, Neptune, Mars, Yod, like just not try to grab that and wait for the bit that follows that, which will be, you know, in this English language, a bit of a terrestrial translation or narration of the celestial conversation, right? But I like to point these things to chart because out on charts, because I have the great fortune of speaking to astrologers so often, and because more and more of us are here to study this sacred science. And so I love to offer some of, well, this is where this is coming from, right? There's something about simply witnessing these geometries in the chart, these sacred symbols in the chart that stimulate our alignment, right? This is a magical thing we're after, but it's not just some symbolic language alone, my friends, because astrology is the poetic breath of nature. And I must say, Leo is one of the harder beings for me to speak about globally. I try not to teach the archetypes from a seasonal perspective, as they so often are, because I honor that this hottest month of the year, August, for the Northern Hemisphere is the coldest for our friends in the Southern Hemisphere, isn't it? And being global, being aligned to the truth that this is the middle of summer for some and the middle of winter for others, brings us into the beauty of polarity, right? And we see this in astrology as these 12 signs, which are actually 6 pairs. So one of my favorite examples of this is Libra and Aries, because you put them together and it spells libraries, and this is the book of relationship. And we often contribute the relationship theme to Libra alone, but see, Libra is othership, which will pull us way out of relationship balance unless it is balanced with Aries selfness, not selfish, so sadly incorrectly pronounced that way by too many astrologers who seem to have been informed by the church, who tried to burn our craft at the stake. And when that didn't work, it seems to me that they gave us some archetypal expressions of these things that are not their truest form. So we could maybe shame ourselves and go repent. I don't know. Anyway, Libra othership, Aries selfness, to bring us, even though those two things can either feel like they're tearing us apart or putting us together, the awareness is here in the heart, right? The middle way, in that case, of relating. And Libra and Aries are about much more than relationship also. Well, what is this polarity of Leo? And what's opposite Leo? Aquarius, right? What is that about? We can say Leo royalty and Aquarius revolutionary, which is fascinating because if you really drop into this, there is no revolutionary without royalty. There is no royalty without revolutionary. But that's kind of just a tiny piece of the picture. And this is too, but I will say that this axis, Leo Aquarius, is most about creation. I could say creativity. Aquarius, like this antenna into the air places of divine mind. And Aquarius imagination is the essence that sings to the truth that it is easier for me to work on writing my book when I'm surrounded by others who are writing or doing other things, you know? The antenna to the collective consciousness, in a sense. And we say oftentimes like a love for humanity, which I think also blossoms in that way, is an Aquarius thing, and we will have Aquarius full moon in this Leo month, if you will. What is a month? New moon to new moon, right? So we could do an August forecast. We could do a September forecast after that, right? We could do the sun through Leo, right? Which is about July 21st to August 21st. It depends on the year and such. But I'm very interested in these lunations. New moon as a time to plant seeds of intentions. And so even though, let's say, for example, now the new moon, actually, let's say right now, right? I'm recording this on July 29th, 2019. And the sun has been in Leo for about a week. But the moon at the time that I am recording in this moment is not yet in the sign of Leo, but in the sign of Cancer. And this is the sign where we last had new moon. So even though the sun's been in the sign of Leo for a week, and this is huge, right? I like to say that the sun shines, the key of the song. It's the very key that the Celestial Symphony is tuned to at this time. Still, the seeds of this month were planted in Cancer soil. And those seeds, if we've been playing moon game, have since sprouted and flowered and fruited. And now we carry seeds of wisdom that were held in that fruit. And we eat the fruit we've earned. And we drop those seeds along with the core of the fruit to create a compost and rich, dark soil for these new seeds to be planted. It's not just some line that goes Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, etc. It's not even just a circle. We talk about this circle of life. The Cancer seeds get planted in Leo soil, which will sprout and flower and fruit, and those seeds planted in Virgo soil, etc. Right? So that circle, the Pisces seeds, eventually will be planted in Aries soil, and we continue on. But very importantly, this isn't just a circle, but rather a spiral, because the whole thing is moving through space. And at some point, we can say it kind of Taurus is back in on itself. More dynamic than a spiral, even at that. But you can't step in the same river twice. This Leo new moon will not be the same as last year's Leo new moon, or like either of the Leo new moons in 2017, which reach eclipse cycles, actually. Anyway, back from those branches to the trunk of the tree. Oh, imagination, Aquarius. Inspiration, Leo. Right? Do you see that? Creation, creativity. And so Aquarius in the air, mind and thought, and I'm not talking about little m. I'm not talking about get out of the mind and get into the heart. I'm talking about big M, right? Big T, thought. In the beginning was the word, after all. And the way we word is so magical, and the way we spell is indeed a spell. There's power in that side of our conscious creation, and there's power in this side, right? Where's my hand? At the hara, right? That place between the heart, solar plexus, the inner mounted flame. And it's a tough place to find so often, right? But that is that place of inspiration, right? And truly, it is always, we can say, creation creating through us, the reed that vibrates in the wind of spirit, if you will. But at the same time, you know, I'm meant to play this saxophone, though I would love to play like those I idolize and have been through the pain of this is never going to be. I'm meant to play this saxophone. Like me, right? And I also learned to play that saxophone by jamming with the crew, right? And connecting to their own sparks and flames of inspiration in this dance that would maybe be more akin to the communication of shared creation or imagination. And so I really feel that beauty in this Leo Aquarius axis. I once asked my friend Rick Ravine, Sorry. Leo is a very passionate place, though, after all. I once asked my friend Rick Levine when I was on this whole trip about, hey, these 12 signs are actually 6 pairs, And I went into my Libra Aries Libraries book of relating, othership, selfness, balance for right relationship trip that you just heard. And Rick said, good. And I said, because we were in this time at that time, and I said, hey man, so, what is Leo and Aquarius then? If these 2 sides of one axis, Leo and Aquarius, are not opposition, not opposed to one another, as we say, the aspect that connects the sign of Leo and the sign Aquarius are, but rather a diameter. That's the old word we used, you see. Does that mean they are diametrically opposed? Interesting. Or really that they are 2 sides of one thing? So if this is true, in Leo is one expression, and Aquarius the other expression, I hesitate, but I'll say like hot and cold are both temperature, right? Well, Leo and Aquarius are both, I posed to Rick Levine, and he said love. Aquarius, the love for humanity, and Leo, the love for self. We're going to get more into that. And then he said, yeah, but all of them are love. And this is certainly true, because really, in truth, there is only love, friends. But that's a really beautiful thing. And it's something that I think that will come alive for us powerfully this month. And so the 2 kind of words for this axis that will new moon in Leo and full moon of Aquarius, moon reflecting Leo, like that I will offer just on an archetypal level, are love. And especially since it's the seeds planted in Leo soil that will flower as Aquarius, love, self-love. So we'll talk a little bit more about self-love and why it's one of the most challenging things for us to touch into in the crazy conformity culture in which we are, most of us, raised. And creation. If that sounds like too much responsibility, creativity, inspiration. And if you play one of these things, what would it sound like if you get out of the sheet music of the I could do that all day, because actually for me it's kind of like coming back to the sheet music with a lot more interest in seeing how, wow, these are different vehicles like that, which was the first prelude of Bach's cello suites. Like, they are vehicles for creation to create through us, because we don't want to sound like everybody else when we play the same song. In fact, the cool thing about that particular piece is Bach didn't write any dynamics with it. He didn't really say much about the tempo and stuff. He's like, here's the notes. And you'll hear a lot of recordings that sound exactly the same, but you'll hear recordings of that piece, which Cello Suites was obviously composed for cello, that sound very different. So I hear people play it on flute and saxophone, or we attempt to whatever, and kind of recreate it. It's hard with the saxophone because I need to breathe, and that song, the way it was written, doesn't really seem to give much time for breath, because it was written for an instrument that doesn't require those pauses to inhale. But where it's most magical, I feel, is listening to two cello players play that like very similarly and yet completely differently. But anyway, very importantly, I think, how to be able to take one of these things or whatever it is you do and just like right, like get off the cuff. I'm sorry, that's probably super loud coming through these computer mics. But just like free it up and go for it and see what comes through. And I'll say, like, on this instrument, you know, just like, like, there's like finding one note and letting it be and create. It's something I will say, and shaming myself that I didn't do enough of when I was young, and so the tone isn't where I want it to be. And it's weird because I can say that and it's like, you heard right there that sound of defeat, right? Oh, it's too late, maybe in the next life. You know? Wrong. Like, why don't I do that now? And we'll speak a little bit more about that when it comes to next lunation, Virgo's polishing this stone. But right now it's time to connect to Leo's. I can do anything I want. I am creator. And let me honor that I'm saying that again in the last couple of days of the Cancer lunation. And I think one of the issues with there are difficulties in finding this inner mountain flame where confidence is the shining way. Many of us were actually told you can do anything you put your mind to, sweetie. You can do whatever you want. And yet there was also this very subtle, even if they were trying not to, you can do anything you want to do so long as it's what we want you to want to do. You can do anything you want to do as long as it's what we want you to want to do. Because mommy knows best. Daddy knows best. And if you're going to chase a saxophone around the world as a professional musician, you might want to have a backup plan. You know, you might want to get an engineering degree. That's how it came down for me and through me. And actually, that's exactly how it went. You know, like, and I'm certainly not in any way attempting to point fingers outside of me, because as far as I'm concerned, the true Leo way is reminding ourselves that we paint the canvas of our life's experience. So if I say the codes of mother's conscious attention to success and definitions for abundance, meaning like a job in the world, and say, oh my gosh, I wasn't encouraged to just be a great musician and practice my scales because there was at the very roots of my world tree soil tuned to the idea that you can't make it as a musician. That's for the very few. And the whole backup plan thing, right, will suck a root in such a way that it can't drink from that place of creation that it might want to. But if I find myself, and first of all, for the purging and the purifying and the cleaning and whatever, it's not bad to say, oh, he, she, them, whatever. But at some point we know if we want to do this in the empowered way, oh, because I. Because as the one came into this place as one the called me, so in its growth the whole thing could expand. Somehow in my own particular training it was that. Now that's a lot easier to say in this, I almost said little example, I'm going to get back to that, in this example I just shared, than it would be when it's this very deep traumatic experience. And we're going to talk about some of that today. And the heavenly harmonies insist we do, right? If that was sexual abuse, you know, by those who you should most trust, or even if it was living in a reality that's being, you know, the authorities insist is not what it truly is. But I'm not doing so well with English here, but why judge myself? Why not just love myself? I think it's very important for us, regardless of the temperature of our own initiatory frying pan in youth. Otherwise, not to say things like, oh, that little example that you heard me say just then. You've gone what you've gone through, what you've gone through. You're going through what you're going through. I've gone through what I've gone through. I'm going through what I'm going through. And though certainly my experience was not hellacious like the life experience in this moment of the woman whose child was just drone bombed and taken away to the trades, separated in some border cage. And we, of course, have an endless palette of nightmare that we can paint from in this strange world, which sometimes you've heard me say the earth game, but that can sound like running away from the truth of this place where there can be so much suffering and darkness that it's hard to find the light of the roaring flame, or it provides a place that necessitates a spark that will allow that flame to roar if we choose to personally come out into the bright light. He tries to raise his eyebrows. And this really for me is Leo stuff. So I'll speak a little bit more about this Leo archetype. I'm actually speaking more astrologically than I had intended to, but this is what I do. And not only because it's what I study and it's my job and stuff, but it is, because it's where my passion's at. And look, your passion is the way of the light and life, says Leo. Your play is the way. So this month, this Leo new month, which begins with the seed planted at Leo new moon, when moon meets sun, 8 degrees and 36 minutes, tropical Leo at 8:12 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, July 31st, which will be August 1st for some of y'all and other places in the world, in my future as I'm recording here from California. It is time to set our intentions to realign to the truth that play is the divine way. As Caroline Casey once taught me, play, not peace, is the opposite of war. And I think Caroline told me she learned that from the wolves. But this month we study with lions. And friends, lions roll in prides. And this is a very important clue. In a world where we are taught that pride is arrogance, that confidence is cockiness, that self-love, burning, roaring self-love and radiance is ego and vanity, it is very hard for us to claim our right and responsibility of Leo torch. Fixed sign. So we start speaking a little more astrologically. Fixed fire. And what you'll read on many of the astrology books on the shelf is that the fixed signs are stubborn. I don't know about that, says a stubborn Scorpio. But seriously though, I don't know about all that. Now I will say this, right? 4 elements, 3 modalities, as we usually describe the quadruplicities these days. And they are cardinal, the signs that begin seasons. Mutable, the signs that end them as they mutate into the next cardinal sign that begins the next. And fixed, the fixed energy of the season. So Leo is the middle month of Northern Hemisphere summer, Southern Hemisphere winter. Many teach that the sun rules Leo because August is the hottest month of the year. Now, again, I tend to try to avoid such seasonal hemispheric language. I can show you many reasons why the Southern Hemisphere speaks a little more to the truth of tropical astronomy than the Northern does. But the archetypes of the signs, maybe more so over time, feel in ways seasonally aligned to Northern Hemisphere experience. And one way we can make this more global, first of all, is to understand that hotness must be balanced by cold to find the middle way of the one thing called temperature. And summer and winter do this, and there's much more to say about that. But another thing we can do is just play with these a daily correlation. And so in this regard, we could say that the Leoine energy, or the sun energy, the sun which is set to joy in the 9th house, is about having accomplished the climb and the joy you feel once you're at the top of the mountain and now on the way back down. Though, of course, Saturn reminds us that can be kind of hard on the knees, can't it? And Saturn might be reminding us of that in this specific lunation. Another little esoteric seed planted, if you will. Look at the Leo glyph. We say the lion's mane. I will be presenting for the Organization for Professional Astrology on Sunday, August 11th. OPA, astrology.org. First of all, just become a member, and then it will become free. And it's good to be an open member, trust me. But you can also pay a little bit of change to join that webinar, where I will be presenting the very sacred astronomy that is embedded into the very magical glyphs that we use for these signs. And I think Leo speaks of that climb and then coming back down. The sun, circle of spirit, makes the big climb and comes back down. I think that's more of a Northern Hemisphere trip, but it also speaks to the sun's joy in the 9th. And that's a traditional perspective that's been lost in many regards in modern times, where people say, well, the sun rules Leo, and Leo is the natural 5th, so the sun, natural ruler of the 5th. That's a new image that is not in pace with the sacred transmission of the ancients of our astrological craft. Craft, art. Talk more about that. But let's say that, that kind of sun in the 9th house, energetic, that shortly after midday, like midday in the next couple hours, when the sun is, and we're charged up. And there's a lot of energy happening. There's a lot of creativity and creation. Siesta happens like after that, if we're doing it right, so we can kind of recover a bit from, a roaring flame. So yeah, a couple more places I want to go here before we open the chart and play and astrologize. Craft, art, living life as art. I heard this thing once, and it wasn't from an astrologer or about astrology, but everything, once you catch the bug, as they say, is astrological, because this is the poetic breath of nature and the circle of life. The thing said was this: art is the bridge between science and spirit. Oh, and I was like, wow, that really seems to speak about these modalities. Because what I heard is this, that like cardinal signs, they start seasons, and so they initiate things, but aren't so good at finishing them. The fixed signs come to finish those things, and so they're very stubborn about making that happen. And then the mutable signs understand that it can't all be done, or that was finished and it's time to move on to the next thing, and they're very transitional energies. Okay. And, there's some truth there, but that thing I think has been taken like way out of whack, and it can be just a very cold and disconnected suggestion of what these energies that we all have, because you are all of the signs, you are all of the cycles, you are all of the seasons, your nativity, your own personal song just highlights many of them and relationships of many of them to help sing of your choices of how you will dance here if you choose to weirden in the earth game and bring that medicine to help the all evolve. And one thing that this has led to, again, I repeat myself, but redundancy is built into every great space mission. One thing this has led to is this idea that fixed signs are stubborn, fixed in their ways. And, that can show up, that can present. I mean, it's interesting, like a lot of the ways that the books teach these signs, it just seems to be like to reinforce their highest shadow way. And I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing to do. And there are no shadows without bright light. So sometimes studying the shadow can help us find ourselves. The Leo shadow study might best be invoked by Peter Pan watching his dance when he's not even moving. I was once told this thing by a friend about the importance of understanding that there is outer posture and inner posture. So yeah, it might be you're at a place where you're meant to be very stoic and sturdy, but that doesn't mean you can't be dancing on the inside. There might be a place where you're meant to be out just dancing around, really going for it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have a solid posture in the inside that will help you integrate all of that. Or shifting back and forth or around the circle or up the spiral and back into the torus in both regards or all regards. There's more than just insides and outsides too, but as within, so without. And this brings me back to art as the bridge between science and spirit. Now, one thing I can say about that is that this is what astrology is. It's a craft. It's a sacred science because it is an art that bridges the science and the spirit, the science and the sacred. What is the science of the heavenly happenings? We call it astronomy. I can take my ruler to the heavens and I can tell you about speeds and distances and brightnesses and all sorts of things. And this is half of astrology, and it's a half of astrology many astrologers have forgotten, or we've just given the keys to cats who don't believe in spirit and asked them to do the material side of our thing, right? You can come up here if you want. Sorry, dog sitting. Luna, we're talking about the moon, so this might want to just star you. Do you want to come up? Okay. Oh, wait. This will be more comfortable. Yeah? I'm probably going to be battling for a while, so get comfortable, okay? Good girl. Sometimes the brightest light wears the cloak of the darkness of the night. Right. Where were we? Yes. Astronomy, quantity of the heavenly happenings, correspondences, the quality of the heavenly happenings, the celestial conversation, through terrestrial narration. And see, astrology is mostly now devoted to correspondences. This is the why, right? And gave the keys to the astronomical rocket ship to many materialists who are after the what, right? But really astrology is these two things, and it is an art that bridges the two. This is an example I love to give. Many of you probably have heard this before. Well, that didn't work out so well for our canine company, did it? Right? And maybe others of you chose to run away in that moment, and maybe some of you came closer. Because sound quantity of sound is a measurable thing. What is the frequency? What is the amplitude? Luna said too much amplitude, right? A wrong frequency, perhaps. So that bit of sound that is, the thing that says yes when a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, that of course it made a sound, because sound is simply frequency and the air moved or whatever, did its dance, right? But the quality of sound is a very different thing. How does saxophone move you versus how does it move Luna or you or you or you or you or me? Quality. A note, a song, a phrase is going to dance you in a different way than it dances you. Quality. So measurable thing, science. Quantity. Immeasurable thing, spirit, quality. And harmony is a sacred science or an art that bridges science and spirit, you see? And so astrology is this. In fact, astrology is the probably most developed of the sacred sciences. Others include geometry and number. These are the 4 sciences. Astronomy, which is number in time and space, consisting of harmony, number in time, geometry, number in space, which themselves are about number, arithmetic, or number magic, which is the root of all creation in some regards. But these traditionally were the sacred sciences that we would study before we could enter the halls of the highest of the lower mysteries we call astrology. Anyway, maybe that's a little much, but good one for the book. So art is the bridge between science and spirit. And what I learned when I heard this is, well, this is a kind of cool thing to apply to these modalities, that cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, are very much about the science of their element. And I don't mean like a scientist. I just mean that like, Aries, what's the science of fire? Start a fire. It's the spark. Got it? I think I should just make sure. Hello? Goodbye. Right, what's the science of the water? It's cardinal water, Cancer, to water stuff and help it grow. Right? It's the science of the earth, to hold it together, understand that matter matters. Capricorn. It's the science of the air. Tickle each other's ears. Communicate, relate. Well, what is the art of the fire? Hold on a second. So how do we do this? I think what I'm going to do is, because I have to get this call to a friend who's on the way here to do some astro exchange. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show the chart. I'm going to interrupt myself. I'm going to find some beautiful music, in this case by the beautiful band Yaima from Seattle, Washington. I'm going to mute myself, hide my camera, do this call, we'll listen to this beautiful song while we look at the Leo new moon chart together, and I will be back with you very soon to continue this astro tune.
From some event that had already taken.
For the answer to the riddle here on earth, the riddle's gone unanswered from the moment of its birth. Searching for the answer, so many would pursue. In favor of their honor, she provided just one clue. Rise up from the ashes, you decide which way to go. Either up, down, sideways, then you'll need to know you will rise like a flame, rise, live again, you will rise like a flame, rise, live again.
Yaima, Yaima music. Check them out online. An amazing place of creation. Okay, so, and I'm realizing that I've really been after this for some time, a lot longer than intended, much longer certainly than in our live moon group, but if you're still here, you're digging it. And so I want to say a couple more things about the Leo archetype in general, and then we'll get into charts together. And we'll just, I think, look at this Leo new moon chart and talk about some seeds of intention that we can plant to align to the many relationships or aspects or chords that the several notes of the celestial symphony are playing at the time. Art is the bridge between science and spirit. And so the science of the elements, I, again, feel most configured to cardinal signs, and really their othership, right? So Libra, the relationship focus, the othership focus, the Cancer, the nurturing energy, the parental mothering energy, Capricorn, the wise elder energy, right? Even Aries, which so sadly is taught as selfish, but really it's selfness. And in truth, the righteous warrior, the pioneer, the scout, they're in it for the tribe, cardinal othership, okay? Mutable signs, the spirit of the element. Sagittarius, I like to say, is the smoke that rises from the fire. It travels far and wide. It takes its own path to the heavens, right? And it carries the spark that will complete the fire trine. So Aries is that spark, Sagittarius, the smoke on the rise, but that can't go down without the roaring flame. And this is Leo, right? Mutable spirit. And this doesn't mean that every sign has spirit. Cardinal other, and every sign has other. Mutable spirit, cardinal science, and every sign has a science and a spirit, but the fixed signs art and service to self-growth. This is something I first learned in the shamanic astrology mystery school. I find it really resonates, and the mantra that I have learned to apply, or the mantra that applies itself through me in my own quest into these mysteries for the fixed signs, is fix yourself to fix the world. As above, so below, as within, so without. You are the world. So this is not some selfish quest. This is spiritual. This is for others, you see, because you are that. You are one ray, you are one thee, you are a radii, right? Many radius, whatever. I am a radius of the many radii. We are the circle, we are the one also. And as the 1V grows, the whole thing does. And so learning in this life's quest that yes, we want to be aligned in truth to participate with the others of family and tribe relationship. Yes, you know, we are monkeys here to pick the bugs out of each other's hair, right? And yes, we are always spiritual beings. And yes, this is about aligning ourselves to spirit, right? And reawakening to the truth that there is unity and such. But at the same time, why are you here as you? Yeah, what is your persona? This word that is actually mask, but many, I think, have mistranslated and thought that the ascendant, church bells ring across the valley, is the mask that you wear. Really, it's persona. It's this whole suit that you're wearing, because this isn't you, and yet it is. And who do you choose to be? This is the soil, right? This question opens our gateway into the rich, like dark, like batshit soil that bright light can grow from. Who do you choose to be? Are you your traumas? Are you your history? Are you your heritage? Are you your lineage? Are you your inheritance? Or who in this moment do you choose to be? How, through acceptance of the things that you have painted on your life's canvas, and perhaps even gratitude for some of the more painful things that you see there, how in that gratitude will you open to a wider palette so you can create the experience that you want to see, that you want to be in this world that is you? Who are you? How are you? Who are you? These are the themes. Life as art. How can we become more conscious of the truth that the paintbrush is in our hands and that we are creator of our own experience here? It's a hard thing to do when there is external influence and abuse. It's a hard thing to do in a culture on one level that would say, if you choose to believe you are a creator, lightning will come from the sky and strike you down. So you have a quicker trip to hell for being so blasphemous. Or on another level that is so egoic, who do you think you are? You're going to need a fall from that ivory tower, right? Because we want to keep you in true step to the conformity culture's way so you can be a good factory being. I will suggest that since these fixed signs are signs of fix myself to fix the world, since they are the art of their element, and Leo, therefore, the roaring flame, and there is no smoke that rises without it, that they are those which are most intentionally muted by our corrupt culture that would try to keep you down and out of your own personal power. Examples? Okay. Scorpio, what do they say? Hidden, hiding away. Art of the heart. Art of the water element. Art of feeling. The deepest experience of passion, excitement, and not only allowing ourselves to experience that, which is hard in this culture, which says if you're sad or if you're really happy, take 2 pills and never call me because you'll be a good robot. Back to the factory, right? Does our culture promote emotional authenticity? Do we allow this for ourselves? This is the Scorpio game, and fix myself to fix the world. If I allow myself an authentic experience of the deepest passions, desires, excitements, aliveness, and an expression of them, then I am creating a world of authenticity in the ways of the feels. Really, really real, and the feely, shifting from serving the suppressed to control me, That's our culture's commandment. 2, controlling the expressed to serve me. Scorpio magic. Aquarius, right? Drift off into those dots in the classroom's healing and they say, hey, snap out of it. Get back to work. Stop spacing out. Well, Aquarius is supposed to space out. Expansion of consciousness, right? The revolution, new ways. But see, if we don't start here, this is what Oracle says. You want to know that? Know thyself. And if we don't start with ourselves, then we're just going to grab the rifle and join whatever revolution seems better than where we're at right now without having a vision of the other side of the thing. And typically we'll be fighting for what we think we're fighting against. Know thyself. Taurus, your beauty. Beauty is a spiritual practice. Capricorn, the trunk, the roots, the science of the earth. Virgo, the spirit of the earth, the leaf that's reaching for the light and doing the inner work to feed the thing, the practice. Taurus, the flower, the fruit, wants to be smelled and tasted, pollinated, the dance, the sensuality. It's so necessary, pollination, for the survival of and expansion of tree species, right? It's the art of the earth. And Leo, the art of the fire, the art of the spirit, the art of the intuitive self, right? So what densities? Earth, water, air, fire. But fire is not only meant to be outside of us. Earth, the body, the senses. Water, the heart, the feelings. Air, the mind, the thought. If we align these 3 bodies, right? The gut brain, the heart brain, the mind brain, we can find that higher self, that higher fire. But it's not about only leaving it out there. Leo reminds us to bring it here. The inner mounted flame. Bring it within. And if you don't, in our culture that says suppress your feelings, the body, the earth will be soggy. It will never find fire. And so our consciousness, like we blow on a fire to help it start, is a catalyst, but we need to bring that fire here within and not to burn out by it. The alchemical fire, like the hen who sits on her eggs to incubate new life, and that allows the water, the feelings to express so the wood won't be too wet for the great cycle of life, bringing spirit within. Who is your spirit? Who is creator in you? You are the artist of your life's experience, and it's a difficult, for some reason, calling these Leo mysteries. Why? To learn to find your inner flame, to learn to be full of yourself. What does that sound like? I mean, this is the worst thing you can be. Well, who are you supposed to be full of? Some God? Some job? Some boss? Some political stance? In a world where we are taught that selfless sacrifice is the only way to heaven, well, first of all, who could do that? Because people who are trying to, are they really selfless? In a world where we are taught that being full of yourself is about the worst way you could be, Leo is royalty, celebrity. And it's difficult to invoke those things when we're given such shit examples in our world at this time, or maybe at all times, isn't it? But I'm not talking about the scary skeletons on the silver screen we're asked to compare ourselves to. I'm talking about the true celebrity, those who deserve the pedestal we should place them on because they radiate. Leo, I will say, leaders when we don't need them. Capricorn, leaders when we do. But somebody just shines. And we want to do it like they do. But we realize that it's not about doing it like they're doing it. we realize that why this is a celebrity, why this is a ray worth following, is because they are doing what they are meant to do. They are in their passion at play. And so we say, oh, I'm not trying to do them. They are reminding me by doing them that I should do me. Freedom, right? And so we go for that. How do I create fire in my life? How do I bring my ray? How do I bring my heat? And how do I stoke those flames? It is through this practice of self-love, which is not egoic. It is not vain. Fix yourself to fix the world. It is for the world. And it is a fight worth fighting, because the true royalty, we will get behind those leaders because their horse is first in line. And this battle that is very worth fighting is the battle for self-love. So weird that it is so muted by our world, and it makes so much sense, because personal empowerment, realizing the creator in you, is one of the ultimate journeys, one of 12. So you create. What do you create? How can you bring that fire in you this month? And I'll ask you a few questions. And I invite you to, and me, to utilize these questions as vehicles to till the soil, to plant these Leo month seeds. Why don't you love yourself? So let's be more specific. What particular self-identities, statements of self-identity, or scar tissues, or commandments that you chose to accept in youth keep you from remembering that you can do whatever you want to do and be whoever you want to be? I have to work this job that sucks because I have to pay the bills. Now, some of that might just be reality, but some of that might be you stuck in a false reality, because if you do the radiant play that you want to do, more abundance will come your way. Now, to shift from the cage to that freedom, you're probably going to be forced to realign and redefine what you believe success and abundance to be. And when there's kids at home and we've got to put the food on the table so that they can live and eat and breathe and grow, it's a lot more difficult to just say, oh, well, I can quit this job and let the eagle wings fly and be who I am, and then the abundance comes in. And it's true, but our responsibilities and the real world will keep us from, slow us down. And you know, it's okay. In fact, it seems to be a very important part of the earth game. Watch lava roll into the sea. Fire, water, really finds the water, the ocean, and earth is born instantly. New body from this weird marriage of fire, spirit, and water feeling. But we're not allowed to even be conscious of that. You see the air, it just steams out, right? It's much like the miracle of incarnation. We bring this fire of spirit here into matter. And if we remembered what we truly were on some levels, we wouldn't be able to fully devote ourselves to the growth of me, to grow the one and only thing. So one of the great alchemical challenges is to remember that we are the fire source. We are not just basking in the sun. We are the sun. We are our sun. But it's something that can't be forced. It's one of the great riddles, one of the great miracles. And, you know, the truth is that in the dream realm, in the spirit realm, it's much like manifestation is a much faster thing, and it's meant to be that way. You know, I'm on this diet right now. It's tuned to one of my own intentions, because when I ask this question of, oh, what's keeping me from shining or from loving myself, you know, there's like higher spirit answers, there's soul answers, and then there's like physical matter answers. And right now, like, I feel that I'm carrying too much weight, like not happy about my body, right? I haven't been active. I haven't been running my fire. I don't like what I see in the mirror. And so how can I truly love myself if I don't love my reflection? So some of that might just sound incredibly superficial, right? Or vain. And we should love ourselves regardless of our physical identity. But if our physical identity doesn't look who we know ourselves to be, I'm not talking about the programming by Hollywood and the magazines that say I'm supposed to look like him or him or him or whatever. I'm talking about what I know I'm meant to feel like and be, and in my health and, you know, my fire. And if that's off, it's really hard to love yourself, right? So there's a diet happening right now because I'm realigning myself so I can till this soil to plant these seeds of confidence and creativity, which require that self-love. And then that also says, well, don't be so hard on yourself, right? That's not the thing. So, you know, in my dream last night, I manifested an ice cream cone. I wasn't like lucid. I wasn't like, wow, I'm dreaming. So cool. I can eat some ice cream right here. Right? But some part of me was. And I woke up this morning. I was like, oh man, broke that die. I was like, oh, cool. And it was just a dream. Like I can have that ice cream cone in the dream, I think. How's that work? But if right now I wanted to like manifest the ice cream cone into my hand, like live, Facebook, later posted on YouTube. Hold on. You know, there are people who could do that, right? And probably could create the tastiest, like sweetest, sugary ice cream cone that's also like nutritional, which it seems impossible, but there's probably some magicians that bam, right? We know that there's beings, like high spirit beings, who can just manifest in this world of matter. I'm not one of them. Or we are all exactly that, and everything in our life is coming through our paintbrush. And so becoming conscious of this and then cultivating this is the thing. But it's hard for that fire, the least dense, to come into the earth, the most dense, and for us to be consciously aware of that. It seems to be part of the setup that we're not necessarily allowed exactly that glimpse. I'll show you astrologically why I feel this time is empowering specifically one planet called Mars to help us charge through the way we bring self into spirit and know that this is part of our power and our gift. So before I get to the charts, he keeps saying, a couple more challenge questions. So let's like make that one a little bit more focused, concentrated. What is in the way of you loving yourself? What is blocking you? What are you conscious of that blocks you from confidence, from creativity, from empowered radiance, from truly loving yourself? So I just said it that way, right? Why don't you love yourself? And when I say, why don't you love yourself? It's easy to say, because they taught me, because the world is structured in such a, no. You painted that. So this month, and let's like bring it into matter. Perhaps says the, I don't know, new moons, Leo, Venus square, Taurus, Uranus, or Capricorn, Saturn, South Node, Pluto, with Mercury and Cancer stationing direct an hour before in opposition or diameter, right? What are your hang-ups? Do you, like me, have bad habits that have formed that are keeping you in fear of being the all-creator being that you can be? Are there specific things that you can compost destroy to make room for this higher creation? Are you willing to do that work? Are you willing to sit down each day and say, I love myself, and this is why I choose to shine my light? And the truth is this, and I learned this in this way from Adam Gainsbourg. You can watch a conversation on YouTube that we recorded in probably August of 2015 in a Venus Leo cycle. That truly loving self, not faking this, not superficial, like truly learning to love self and creative gift is the greatest gift of love that you can give. And we hear that, it's like, wait, okay, if that's true, then I will love myself because this gives love. But what I love from Adam in this conversation is like, no, that's not how it works. Because if you're loving yourself to give love, you're not loving yourself. It is about stoking the flames of the radiant, roaring fire and finding that true pride that is in no way arrogant. Yeah. So these are the challenges this month. And that Leo seed will sprout through Scorpio soil, says the first quarter moon. And this is coming into the things that might say, you're not powerful enough, you're not magical enough, you haven't been initiated enough, you didn't go into the darkness enough to carry this torch. You haven't earned it, or you have to hide these things because what would others think, right? It's tension there, the darkness and the light. Flowering in Aquarius, right? Love for humanity. Isn't love for yourself distracting from that? And again, what I say is no, this is the revelation. This is the revolution. Find your own roaring flame and add it to the cruise. And then the third quarter moon will not be in the fourth fixed sign starting from Leo of Taurus, because by the time we have third quarter moon, the sun will now shine from the mutable sign of Virgo. And so it will be a Gemini third quarter moon to find our fruit. And hopefully I'll get to share a little bit more about that. But it's interesting to see that for these four principal stages of this lunation, Leo, new moon, Scorpio, first quarter. Let me just share some charts while I'm saying that, because you can pause and dig into them later. Here's the Leo new moon cast for Washington, D.C. This, by the way, is Black Moon Lilith. Intrepid has, usually we show her like this. And given that the new moon is near opposite Lilith, by the way, this is like a super new moon, which we don't visibly see because it's under the sun's beams, and it is not an eclipse like the total solar eclipse of last month. My apologies for all the screenshots on my desktop, but I'm creative. So here we have Washington, D.C., July 31st, 2019, 11:37 p.m. according to this ephemera. It's the time of moon meet sun 0837 Leo, okay? And I'll show you the new moon, Scorpio, 15 degrees. Then that means basically on the cross quarter. Sun at the Lammas or Lugnasa degree, although we celebrate that August 1st. The sun is halfway between solstice at 0 Cancer and equinox at 0 Libra when at 15 Leo. And so the 15 Scorpio energetic is like Samhain, right? All Saints Days, Halloween, things we call this now. Those are very powerful places of the zodiac, and it's an amazing chart, by the way, for too many reasons than I can share today. Full moon in the sign of Aquarius on almost the day, a couple days after Venus aligns exactly behind the sun. I'll speak more about that in a bit, I believe. And then the third quarter moon here shining from the very first degree, 12 minutes, Gemini. Okay, so this particular lunation, if we look at it from new moon, fixed fire, first quarter moon, fixed water, fix yourself to fix the world, full moon, fixed air, and then third quarter moon, right, the waning half moon, mutable air. And it's interesting then to see in this particular lunation, fire, water, air, air. So it's interesting this year of 2019, not much air happening in the tropical zodiac, not much air sign, right? But there's something in this lunation that says like, oh, you want to be playful? You want to create? You want to remember you are creator? You want to remember that you can paint your life's experience? Mind is a beautiful thing, a powerful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a terrible thing to waste. Aquarius revolutions and these flowers will find seeds in the fruits that say Gemini. And one thing that Gemini and Leo certainly share is play and youth, right? They do it maybe for different reasons. But I think that's a very important thing about this lunation, that the fruit of wisdom will be through remembering that youth and play is the way. We shall see. What keeps you from allowing yourself to be young and fun and vibrant and alive and passionate and playful, right? Is it punching the clock? Is it feeling like you didn't play enough scales, so now you can't play the horn in that way that, you know, would allow for success on the stage? Is it weight? Is it health and other regard? What is it? Is it that broken heart you've been carrying? Is it the way that you hurt that person and now you're so bad that you're not allowed to be good? What is it? Look at that. And look at the little habits. Look at the things that we form to protect the heart, right? Or shield the heart, or really say no to the heart's radiance by saying, oh, I hurt that person, so scar tissue here. Oh, I was so hurt, I can never be loved or met in the way that I would like, so scar tissue here. Oh, I was so abused, right? A lot of scar tissue. Oh, I look at the world and it's like, oh, so brutal, right? There is no light. I can't shine light into that, right? What is it? What are little things? And what are little things in your daily, right? Like I woke up this morning kind of charged to write and create, and I was like, oh, I'm tired, and I watched TV, right? So I don't want to be so hard on myself. That doesn't do it, right? But it's just like, okay, what if I did get up and write, right? Or if it's like, oh, I'm not ready to, what if I took a run and got that fire going and let this thing happen while I'm out moving around, the inspiration, the imagination, and kind of connecting. And then it's like, wow, I can sit down and write much faster. What if I lived that reality today? Maybe I wouldn't be procrastinating on Facebook. But if I let myself laugh more? What's keeping me from laughter? What if I let myself love more? What's keeping me from laughter? What if I let myself, play, radiate, passion, sex? What if I let myself do things more? What says I can't, When I get all romantic, if I'm not in a place where I can look down at myself and feel some, aliveness and beauty. I don't know how to be careful with these words. I'm trying, whatever. Can I really give that passion as I, should? And what is the hang up? Is it all mental, right? So again, I think really looking at how we radiate, how we fire, and are we bringing too much are we just like putting the fire out by being too hard on ourselves? So those are the seeds that I would encourage you to play with, it's the dry soil that no longer can, it only grows barren trees or something like that. And look, it's the holy water. The tears. It'll rain from the sky when it rains from our eyes. We've been burying the water inside. And now the carrion birds smell the death of the herd that's been grazing on raisins from the earth that's too dry. The lyrics that came to me in a song called Drought. It begins that way. And there's a lot, I think, in this, in the ways and the shapes of the astrological happenings now that remind us that it starts in the heart, even the art of the chart. So I'm glad, without getting too charty, I could speak for this long about an astrological thing. But now I'm going to get super charty. And if you're watching this live on Facebook, it will just continue. But if you're watching this on YouTube, it's about to end, the little musical interlude, and then you can go find Leo New Moon 2019 Part 2, where we will get much more into the charts and astrologize. So for those of you where you will see an end to the transmission right now, thanks for dancing along. I'm Gemini Brett. You can find me at geminibrett.com if you would like to tune into how this particular new moon or any of the great, beautiful shapes of the Celestial Symphony aligns for you specifically, personally. Reach out. It's my gig. It's my passion. It's my love to teach astrology and also to serve as a counselor, right? So geminibrett.com, you'll find a link that says work with me. You'll find a bunch of free teachings over there and other things. And it's a little harder to find there than it is on my old website, morethanastrology.com, which is still currently active. Things I got to do to the new one to get it right. But you'll find a donation button there. It's easier to find at morethanastrology.com. So if you feel like giving something back for what you've received here, feel free to buy me some tea so I can continue to astrologize. All right, musical interlude, and then we get into charts.